Welcome to hashtag SWC number 26. Hi, everybody. This is Edie Berg. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I'd like to talk about role models. What is a role model? Who is your role model? What does it mean to be a role model? But I went last night to a short function in Tel Aviv called Lecturers That Don't Usually Lecture. And it was kind of in a TED Talk style format. And they had 7 people who don't usually talk to other, in front of big crowds. And there was a huge crowd. There were 400 people twice in the same evening. And the people who spoke were very varied. One was a private investigator. One was somebody who is a butcher at the market. He's a manic depressive. And he told his story about not wanting to be working in the market and then learning to love it. A woman who washes bodies after they have died and before they are buried and gets them ready for being buried and for the ceremony. And she does it on a voluntary basis on top of having 6 children and working a full-time job. And she spoke, and she was a funny person. So that was very interesting. There was a woman who is the head editor of a rumors program here in Israel, the Guy Penis Show. And she is the editor of the rumors. And, she said, do they make things up or do they fabricate? And are there any ethics behind the work that they do? And when she came out to talk to us, she was dressed in a very simple t-shirt and jeans, and she didn't do her hair, and she didn't have any makeup on. She just had tennis shoes on, and she was a person who was used to being behind the scenes. And she talked about that a little bit also, about the advantages of being behind the scenes. Another person who spoke is a gender fluid person, and they spoke about being gender fluid and what does that mean, and what are the differences in genders. This person is a drag king, and they talked about, doing the shows and what that means and the importance of speaking out about gender fluidity and what that can even mean. Another one of the speakers is a very gentle woman who was married to a serial killer, and she told us her story, and she was very excited and nervous to be on the stage. And she's in her late 50s. She did not have an easy life, even before she met this person who turned out to be eventually a serial killer who had killed his wives. And she found it very important to now speak up and stand up for other women who might not trust their instincts, might not trust their intuition. And she told us her story so that we would know to trust our own intuition. Each of these people were not celebrities. They're the kind of people who are your neighbors or, your brother or your sister. And they were very, very relatable. We could really understand their day to day and where they were coming from. But their message then became so much more important because we could really see that we would behave in a similar way that they would behave in a situation that we have never been in before. So these people instantly became role models. A woman who washes bodies before burial on a voluntary basis and spoke about how it was such a privilege for her to do it, even though it was never a convenient time. And sometimes there were people that she knew, because she does it in her own little community, in her own settlement, her moshav here in Israel. So all of a sudden, I said, I really should be able to give back to my community as well. Look at this woman. She has every excuse in the world. She has 6 children. She's definitely not well off. She has a full-time position, and still she somehow finds time to give back in a way that is meaningful. So a role model is really a person who is looked at by others as an example to be imitated. And why do we even need role models? If we really want to decrease the gender inequality, girls must see that it is possible to be who they want to be and do what they want to do. If they can see it, they can be it, right? So do you remember Sally Ride? In 1983, she became the first woman to be in space. And now in the space station, there's almost 50% of the crew are women, and many of the commanders have been women. At the moment, Peggy Whitson is the commander, and she's a woman. Another great example of effective role modeling. So who are your role models? For me, I need to know my role models personally. I could never have a celebrity as a role model because I don't really trust the media to depict, a real person. But in my life, I have a friend. She's a professor. She's a doctor, head of department in a hospital. She's an innovator. She's a teacher. She's a mother. She's even a grandmother now. And she cares about her family first, but she's never driven by guilt. She's very straightforward and unapologetic. And sometimes she needs to leave a function early. She travels very often. It's okay. That's how her work is, and that's what she does. And she's the opposite of lazy. Nothing is ever too much for her. She always has enough time. She loves her close friends. She's very respected by her peers. She does sport more times in a week than there are days of a week. But she isn't perfect, of course, but she is one of my role models, and I know her. And when I think of what to do in a certain situation, if I'm stuck, I think of how would she do it. So you can hear my interview with her, with Professor Anat Levenstein. She was at the very beginning of my podcast. She was episode number 7. And she was also very kind, right? So when everybody else was saying no to me because they didn't really want to be on a program that, had just started, she was there. And she said, of course, she knew that it was an important thing. And it was important to me. So she did it. And I appreciate her. And she really is a real role model to me. Now, another question is, are you a role model? And this is really the exciting thing. This is what I'm most excited about because, of course, yes, without even knowing it, or maybe you do know it, but without knowing it, you are a role model. People look up to you and they watch you and your actions. They learn from you and they copy you. So you get to choose. Are you going to be a positive role model or a bad role model, a negative influence, or maybe a little bit of both? Now, do you think that women can be role models for men? Right? Of course, there are incredible women that you can admire. And we as women can admire men and say, well, yes, we'd like to have those certain characteristics and be like them or reach those heights. And there's a great TEDx talk by Jesus Antonio Baez. And he talks about having women as role models for men. And he finds it very liberating. You can see a woman for who they are and see their essence and want to be like that. So I think that is another way that we can reduce gender inequality in saying that, yes, women can be role models for men, of course. Can a younger person be your role model? Of course they can. Younger women especially, they're so confident and so self-assured. They don't have a lot of the complications. Seems to be that they're much clearer thinkers than women who are now in their 50s were at that stage of their lives. So what qualities would you like in your role model? Or if you look at yourself as a role model, what are the qualities you want to have to be able to inspire others to be like you? Now, you have to be aware of it, that if you are a leader, then people are going to be watching you and they're going to be copying you. You have to be very conscious of your behavior. So I put together a list of words that I think we should be able to say to ourselves in thinking and imagining ourselves and manifesting our own characteristics as a role model. And now I'm going to tell you what this list is. Are you someone who people look up to? When they see you, do they want to be like you? Do they want to be around you? Do people want to be inspired by you? Are you inspiring? Confidence. You're not afraid to speak up for what you think is right. You are fearless. You are unapologetic. You are driven. You are independent. You are knowledgeable. You are hardworking and intelligent. You are strong and ambitious. You are respectful. You are yourself. You have presence. You have focus. You have vision. You are resourceful. People can identify with you. People can learn from you. You are able to take on new challenges. You inspire others to follow their dreams. You are wise. You are inclusive. You are unembarrassed. You're not self-conscious. You are understanding. You know your truth. You know your essence. You are building your own truth. Anything is possible. So I'm going to leave you with that list. And remember that you are already a role model. So go out and have a strong week. And I'll talk to you again in a couple of days. Litrot.